this is probably a good time to mention James Cameron. The man loves technology and sci-fi, and he masters at making entertaining and genuinely good and satisfying popcorn flicks. When I describe him to people who don't already know when I describe him to people who haven't seen that many of his movies, I usually say he makes good Hollywood movies. Don't get me wrong, I love depth in movies, but he's proven that he can deliver that too, and frankly, sometimes you just need something to turn your brain off to and enjoy. And that's where I say, those movies don't have to be piss poor. They don't have to be Jet Li or Jean-Claude Van Damme vehicles. They can be great. Movies that people return to 24 years later, as with this one. I find the characters much more developed in this one, and I really like how Cameron turns the fear of androids on its head, because you genuinely get to believe, shit, Bishop screwed them over, and then the dropship arrives again, and they're saved. Also, on the point of the dropship, this movie is influential in its own right. Ever played StarCraft? You've probably noticed that when you click on the dropship, the pilot, both in appearance and in the line she speaks, is basically the pilot from this movie. The film has a lot of tension and suspense, and it genuinely has a good, creepy atmosphere. The scenes of them checking out the wreckage of this colony are very effective and evocative. This doesn't suffer from the isolation that the first one did, because it's really more of a ghost town kind of thing than a spaceship far away from anything we know. I mean, be honest, don't you kind of forget that you're not watching a movie set on Earth? Also, as a feminist, I love that the finale is of a woman without any help from any man, successfully fighting off plenty of aliens and their queen, all the while saving a girl. And finally Carrie Henn's incessant screaming comes in handy. Much better. I gotta say, I love the cast too. I was very surprised when I found out that the Latina chick is the stepmother from Terminator 2. Then this also has Lance Henriksen, who also appears in both the Predator and the Terminator franchise. Sigourney Weaver comes back, and she's allowed catharsis for the events in the first one. Cameron builds on her character greatly by giving her a daughter that has now died of old age. I gotta say, I think the surrogate mother-daughter relationship really works. I'd also say that Carrie Henn does pretty well at not being really, really irritating. And let's be honest, she gave a pretty good performance. Then we've got Bill Paxton, who's in almost every James Cameron movie ever made, and he's a blast to watch, as always. Seriously, he has some of the funniest lines in the entire thing. I don't know if you've been keeping up on current events, pal, but we just got our asses kicked back there. Now why'd you put her in charge? Game over, man, game over. After the knife bit, that wasn't funny, man. And when being told of the vent system, oh, that's just perfect. That just beats it all. Apone, I think his name is also really, really cool with the cigar. You know, first thing, wakes up, cigar in his mouth. And, you know, when talking to Ripley, be my guest, you know, with the cigar still between his teeth as he's talking. And last but not least, Michael fucking Biehn. I love this guy. And yes, it mainly is because of the Terminator. I fucking love him in that movie. I did not know him before I watched the Terminator, and I just have not been able to get enough of the guy since. I watched fucking Clock Stoppers because he was in it. No, really. He's such an awesome, badass, but still somewhat vulnerable and credible soldier in both the Terminator and in Aliens. And I also think that Cameron does a great job of mimicking Ridley Scott in you don't know that he's going to be the soldier to survive. Seriously, when you first see him, he's just like the rest of them. And let's not forget, he has some fucking awesome lines as well. I say we nuke the site from orbit. Only way to be sure. Alright, we waste him. No offense. Anyway, fair's fair. I was critical of the first one, and I know a lot of people don't like the fact that there was more than one movie in the series, and being that as much as I like Terminator 2, I wouldn't have minded if there was only one Terminator film, I sympathize. And yes, this is a popcorn movie, and I can totally understand if some people were really pissed off at that after seeing Ridley Scott's Alien. Most definitely not a popcorn film. It even takes some steps away from being entirely mainstream with, you know, the very distinct foreign atmosphere. You know, that's going to turn a lot of mainstream viewers off. And I'm not going to claim that that atmosphere did not benefit the movie. I've also heard people complain about the fact that this adds, and I can sort of see where they're coming from. I mean, it would leave us not knowing where the eggs come from, or, you know, maybe if each alien can itself produce eggs. And honestly, that might not be such a bad thing. You're always most afraid of what you don't know. And also, ending-wise, the first one obviously has the more devastating ending. In my view, the special edition only makes it even better. It adds about 17 minutes, bringing it up to a little over 2.5 hours. And I'm of the opinion that as long as you're enjoying the film, and as long as it doesn't feel like it's just adding screen time, it being longer just makes it better, as long as the new material is up to the standard, and in this I think it is. Cameron himself describes it as they made him cut it down because the conventional wisdom at the time was, you know, the shorter the better. I think it's kind of funny how it adds the sentry guns, and everybody knows about them, you know. They're in both of the Alien vs. Predator games that I've played. I haven't played the newest one. And in general, I've just never met an Aliens fan who didn't know about the sentry guns, and yet they're only in the special edition. You know, the second one, by popcorn Hollywood movie standards, is practically a happy ending, and I can see the point of view that would say that's really not appropriate for a movie about, you know, space aliens that kill. Anyway, that was Aliens. Let's move on. And we have Alien to the Third Power. Or just Alien 3, because, you know, that sounds infinitely less stupid and doesn't make you think of math problems. Seriously, what exactly were they thinking with that title? Okay, this is where we get into the not very good Alien movies. The first one had a relatively simple concept that worked really well. The second one took the logical step, multiplied it since we had already seen, you know, thousands of eggs, so they throw the actual military at it and still comes up short. The third one, well, it's like it breaks apart the first two movies, grabs some other parts, some of which really don't fit into the entire franchise, and then try to sort of glue it together, and it's just really hard to ignore how not an Alien movie this is. Arguably, all four of them do kind of limit the possibility of a sequel, at least to the point of specifying what would have to be in the sequel. And to be fair to the first one, I don't think it was necessarily meant to have a sequel. In fact, I'm not entirely sure any of them were really made to have sequels, but I could be wrong. With that said, this has the best starting point and the most selfish ending. Let's look at them, shall we? The starting point is Bishop might make it, Carrie Henn will probably make it, Michael Biehn will be fine, apart from the eye thing, Sigourney Weaver will make it. What does this do right off the bat? Bishop's kinda broken, but you'll see more of him. I do have to give them kudos on the effects on that. Very nicely done. Carrie Henn died. We get an autopsy of her. Very nasty. But admittedly, pretty Fincher as well. Michael Biehn died. For no real reason. Okay, what I think actually happened was some kind of contractual thing, but still, very stupid. Sigourney Weaver makes it, because without her we have no franchise, and this continues the trend of having her start out and end up in her underwear. Here's a thought, here's how this could maybe work and still be very clearly Fincher. Don't get me wrong, the man has created some excellent thrillers. I consider Seven to be one of the best thrillers ever made. And Fight Club is also excellent.